Nothing we say is investment advice. Please pause on all 3 pages of this disclaimer and read it.
Greetings, Algo artisans. It's Cowboy. I am back, and it is Monday, August the 3rd, and it is about 5:15 p.m. EST. We're going to go through the charts today, specifically the NASDAQ, Bitcoin, USDCAD, EURUSD, AUDUSD, gold, and silver. And we're going to talk about some possible trades I see coming up this week. Before we do that, though, please take a look at the description. There is a freebie in there. It's a free algo. It's just a quick video. It's about 15 minutes long where I build a simple algo before your very eyes. Now, you do have to optimize that algo before you use it. You can't just plug and play. But with that video, I also show you the tools that traders are using to connect their algo to their broker so that it can trade for them. Well, they're not even sitting at the computer. They might be playing golf, sleeping, who knows what. So go ahead and check that out. Also, like and subscribe. That helps us out a lot. Now, before we get into the charts and the trades, I'm going to take a look at the news this week. Now, I have been out for a couple of weeks, and it's been an exciting week or two. And right now, I think things are actually going to calm down a bit, but who knows? It's exciting times. So let's go ahead and take a look over at forexfactor.com for the economic data that's coming out that could affect the charts. So here we are, Monday the 3rd. Today's pretty much done. A little bit of data came out for the US this morning. Let's go ahead and move to August the 4th. That's Tuesday at 6:45 p.m. EST. The Kiwi, the New Zealand data is going to come out, and the Kiwi could be affected. Some employment data happening at that time for you Forex traders out there who trade the Kiwi. Not much news this week, nothing until Friday. And then on Friday, the employment data is coming out. Now, it used to be that those came out on Thursday, but apparently they've flipped that, and the Canadian and US employment data all comes out at about 8:30 a.m. EST Friday. So the rest of the week, pretty quiet. Now, that doesn't mean it's going to be absolutely quiet. We might get some kind of Iran news, or Trump says this. Lots of surprises waiting in the wings, but we did have our central bank data come out last week. We had Japan hold its rates steady with hawkish talk, meaning they're probably going to hike rates later, which could affect the stock market, could push it down a bit. But we also had some counter data coming out with the US saying, hey, we're going to buy the yen to prop it up. So a lot of financial engineering going on, but the summertime is when things slow down, especially in August. There becomes a bit less volatility. However, in the current environment, that may not be the case. We could get all kinds of volatility, and we have to be ready for it. So let's move back to the charts, and we'll take a look at the NASDAQ. So the NASDAQ is seeing a relief rally right now, and the upper and lower bound that I'm looking at, in particular the upper bound I want to pay strict attention to, the area where price may either bounce or break out is where the trade should be this week, and that is at 29,362, right? That's where price might reject down and give us a trade, or it might break out and give us a trade to the upside. Now, of course, there could be a big move down, but there's a special candle I want you all to pay attention to, and it's this candle right here. I will zoom in on it. This one right here. It's a strange looking candle, and whenever I see these candles, I know that the market is probably changing direction, at least for the short term, and obviously it changed direction to the upside, and it usually is a market event. In this case, it was last Friday. I'm not sure what happened. Again, it's probably the JPY, probably the Japanese data that came out, but that candle with this sort of a body being a third of the candle, and then a third of the candle being the other 2/3 really being the shadows or the wicks on the top and below. That usually means that you're going to see a big change in direction, and clearly we're seeing that now. So I don't want to rely too much on the news for this, just the charts. And if I see price make its way up to this level right here, I'm going to do one of two things. I'm going to take a look at the bias, and I'm either going to look for shorts where it might look something like this, and it might happen sooner or not, or I'm going to look for a breakout long where it may simply break out to the upside and I simply go long and buy the breakout. All right, those are the two choices. As of now, it does look like we're going to see a relief rally. So if I zoom out, we might see price head up, and I don't know that it's going to go all the way up to this 30,000. I did get some data from, I think it was Goldman. We've seen a move down from the top last week, and that move totals about 12%. So I'm looking for a deeper dip than this before I really expect a big relief rally. But 12% is remarkable. That is a big dip. So at the moment, I'm expecting a small relief rally, and whether it can make it past this level we pointed out earlier is what matters. And it's going to drive Bitcoin, and it's going to drive like the rest of the market, right? So the key level right now we're looking at is, again, 29,370 or so. And then just as important above that, if price really goes up more than expected, would be at 30,100. Now, it is the NASDAQ, and shorting it can be dangerous. I will be paying attention to the bias before I make any trades, but those are the two trades I got my eye on for the NASDAQ. Let's move on to Bitcoin. Now, the NASDAQ is going to drive a lot of what's going on with Bitcoin, but Bitcoin is, in my opinion, in the middle stages of its bear market cycle, where I do think price, as of now, the data says it'll head down, I think, lower than 30,000 and probably in October and November. I know that is an unpopular opinion, but back in 2017-18, when I thought it would head down to 3,000, that was also a very unpopular opinion after it had touched just above 19,000, and I ended up being correct then as well. So whether my opinions are popular or not, they tend to be correct. They're not always right though. You know, we get some wrong. Nobody gets them all right, folks. This is trading. I do think though that the key levels to watch are going to be this level, 65,420 for shorts, and perhaps this 62,200 level for longs, right? And the volatility on Bitcoin certainly has fallen off a cliff. And as long as that's the case, we can expect a lot of sideways action until there isn't. And whichever move it makes after that's probably going to be pretty strong. I don't expect a whole lot this week. I probably will not be trading it, but if price can make it up to this level, which is the 65,400-ish, 415-ish level, I'll do the same thing that I'm doing for the NASDAQ. I'll either look for a short, whether it happens then or sooner, might happen sooner, who knows. Again, the NASDAQ, if it moves up hard, it could drive money into Bitcoin, and this whole chart could actually get rather bullish, at least for the short term. So I could be doing a longer short there. It really depends on what price action's doing in the overall picture. The other option might be looking for a long if price happens to get down this low and bounce off the bottom. And that could happen. That could easily happen, right? If that happens, if price makes its way down, look for a long, grab the bounce if my algos tell me that I can. So again, I don't just blindly take these trades. I take a look at the bias and I make a decision at the time based on the data that I have. Okay, so those are the kind of trades I'm looking at for Bitcoin. Let's take a look at USDCAD. I do expect it to just kind of gradually climb up. I don't have any real key levels on this one. I don't really have any trades that I'm comfortable taking outside of lower time frame stuff or maybe like some kind of a pullback. But at this time, we're just looking at kind of a grind upwards with pullbacks. So I don't want to say, oh, I'm going to take a trade here because it could actually pull back here, right? But after a slight pullback, it might be worth looking for a long. I'm not going to leave this up on the screen. I'm just going to tell you what my thought process is because this is just not very easy to quantify right now. But perhaps buying along on one of these pullbacks and taking along, that might be the way to go. Maybe even it's a quick long. Maybe it's only a 2-to-1 or something like that. But that's the process. And I could talk about upper and lower bounds. I just don't think there's any volatility to see such bounds. But the lower bound is 139.91. That's the lower bound. Upper bound is 141.30. And if price happens to make it to those bounds, they might be good places for trades. Let's take a look at the euro. I expect the euro to be pretty quiet too. A lot of markets to be quiet. You can see the dotted line where I made kind of a higher time frame guess as to what might happen. And it actually did kind of what I said. I thought it would pop up above this level. It just happened a week or so before I thought it would, where it would pop up here. It really popped up there. I thought it would retrace, but this is just me kind of thinking, hey, this might happen. I wouldn't really trade based on the information, but these tend to be scary correct at times. Not always, but often enough to continue to draw these high time frame looks. Now that we're seeing the actual price action, what I would do is look for longs, possibly at the local lower bound of 114.87. If price can make its way up to this upper bound at 116.25, I'd consider a short. In reality though, I probably would just be comfortable trading these local structure points, whether it's a short at this area, which is 115.60, maybe look for a short there at some point, or perhaps grab a long a little lower down around this level right here. And again, I will not blindly take those. It just depends on what the data says at the time. Let's look at the Aussie. Similar story, although it is following my higher time frame prediction a lot more closely than it did on the euro. You can see the dotted line right there. Just a beautiful call on these moves. So I think I will stick with that. And I don't expect a whole lot this week. Again, if price can make its way up to this local area where price had bounced a few times a couple of weeks ago, and that level, by the way, is this blue line, and that is at 70.28. That's 0.7028 or so. Or if it even pokes above to 0.7051, which is this blue line right here, I might look for shorts. I'm not really that interested in trading this currency though. There's not any real definable structure where it's meeting, not as a swing trade at this time. So I'd look for swing trades at structures, and that's about it. You know, possibly grab a short, and that's just the end of the story right there. Not a lot of volatility in the entire market right now, and Forex is notoriously quiet in August, and that's why I'm happy to be trading the NASDAQ. Let's take a look over at gold. Again, gold has an upper and lower bound. I will not be looking for trades right now with gold. It is so quiet, but the upper bound is 41.186 and the Lower bound is 39.94, basically 4,000. So price is probably just going to grind back and forth. And for those who are trading gold, I wish you good luck. The volatility is terrible. There's lots of wicks. I will not touch it. But those are the bounds. So if price were to go to those levels, those might be some decent risks to take. But it's outside of my risk profile due to the low volatility. Let's take a look at silver. Very similar story. The lower bound's a little bit more defined, but again, I don't like the lack of volatility, right? That can make a lot of room for things such as slippage or just wicks or stop runs. But the lower bound right now is sitting at 56.55. Upper bound is sitting at 59.37. If I were to take any trades, it would be at those bounds. So keep an eye on that. But I don't expect a lot from the metals this week. Overall, both metals right now are seeing a lot of bearishness, and I eventually expect price to break down to maybe 45 for silver, maybe even 35. It's possible. And for gold, I expect maybe 3,500. But again, precious metals are precious metals. So we'll have to kind of pay attention to the bond market. As the bond yields go higher and higher, we might end up in trouble and gold sinks, but we'll see about it. Gold is also a highly leveraged product at this point. So a lot of the fluctuations in gold price are going to have to do with the overall market. And if the NASDAQ falls really hard, gold may also take a similar fall. I do understand a lot of precious metals are still being bought in their physical form on the street. So I don't think the real demand is going away, but the high scale paper demand is experiencing some issues. And now we're just seeing a pretty quiet market with what looks to be a rather bearish look. That's that for the week. This is what we do at Algo Factory. We predict where price is going to go, when it's going to get there. So come take a look. And if you want to get an idea of how we do that, the preview is basically the free algo. It's in the description. Take a look, click on it. You have to optimize the algo before you use it, but it's a free algo. It's a video. We build it right before your very eyes. And we also show you tools traders use to plug that algo into their broker so it can trade for them while they're not at the computer. Like I said, they could be sleeping, playing golf, doing anything. And that's the cool part about what we do. Thanks for watching. We will be back tomorrow. That's Tuesday. We'll also be back Wednesday and Thursday, all at the same time, 8:30 a.m. EST, where we do our update. We look at these charts, look at what we think the market's going to do that day. And then we do that for about 10 or 15 minutes for everybody to see on YouTube. And then the private members get the inside baseball, where me and very often V the Gorilla will get on and talk about what we see happening, behind the scenes. We'll do custom charting, all that stuff. Thanks for watching. We'll see you soon.